and mushy still. And I call it the smush and mush method. You can if you want, and most likely it's gonna work if you have clay. This meeting is being recorded. Why is that happening?
That's telling you that the session is being recorded for YouTube.
For YouTube? Wow.
Hey, Helen, I just turned it on.
Oh, Sharita just turned it on. Okay, so I'm just trying to mix this for even consistency, okay? All right, so let's just say I didn't have just enough, well, whatever, I just didn't get enough. Before I reached the certain thickness or thinness, I'm just mixing this because I just had hard clay and soft clay in there, even consistent. What I can do is kind of like, because it's the same consistency, I can put it on here, okay? And I really have to smush it good. Okay, because this clay is super wet right now, you can manipulate it a lot. You can just really mush it around. If it was dry, harder, more dry, stiff, you can't really do this technique, okay? Right now, I can smush and mush it as much as I want. All right, so I am still trying to get this even consistency. So don't get frustrated at this point because you're basically teaching your hands to learn how the clay feels and also kind of getting used to thickness. Oh, I heard an air bubble pop. Okay, that's fine. Now, people get freaked out over air bubbles. Air bubbles is not what's going to cause your piece to blow up in the kiln. Okay, it's going to give you trouble when the unfired clay is slowly drying. In the kiln, what causes pieces to blow up is the moisture. Is that my phone? Okay. Okay. What causes your clay piece to blow up in the kiln is any moisture left in there. So if you make something thicker than like 3/4 of an inch, it's going to take a long time for that piece to dry completely. And any moisture left in the clay in the kiln, the what is it? Water molecules? Is that what it is? It just kind of expands, and that's what blows up your piece. When I fire student pieces, I have to fire a certain way where I probably take about at least 8 hours, depending on what's in the kiln, 8 hours of a very low, like 180 degrees temperature. I let it, kind of fire for 8 hours like that before I slowly turn up the temperature to 2000 degrees, okay?
Okay, so I have a question, Helen. Okay, you have to take in consideration because you're making a berry bowl. So you take in consideration the thickness of the interior of the bowl because you're going to make holes in it, correct?
Yeah, but what it is right now I'm just kind of getting a basic thickness because you can always thin out more once you take this out. You know what I'm saying? You can always, adding is the problem because then you have to worry about things being added on security and not coming off.
So my question was, does it need to be somewhat thicker than thinner because you're putting those holes in it?
Yeah, right now it needs to be somewhat thicker because you're going to be deducting by cleaning, polishing, smoothing, and then that's going to remove some of your clay. So yeah, it does need to be slightly thicker than you think you're going to make it. Okay, right now I have no clue of how thick everything is. So I'm going to make a little round thing, a big one this time. Okay, and I'm going to test. Well, that part's thick. Okay, that part's really thick. You can see that, okay? Now I'll see what this is. And because we're hand billing, things don't have to be perfect. If you're throwing on the wheel, it's easy. You're going to get the same thickness. If you want something absolutely perfect, you can just go buy it online. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
You can just get a factory made. And so now I'm going to trim. This edge is so messy. I'm just going to trim this off, okay? So this is where I use the needle tool.
Mhm.
And let's see, I can't get it off because it's all, yeah, I can get some of it off. Okay, it's a little bit sticky. Okay, right now, normally I will let this sit and kind of dry a little bit, like in about an hour. It depends on the humidity where you are. But after it stiffens up, I can't pull it out right now because it's stuck to the glass. Let me get rid of this. It does stick to the glass, so get rid of this extra here. Now, don't expect to start making masterpieces your first go around, all right? It takes practice. Linda, did you make a berry bowl?
No, I haven't done that yet.
You're kidding. I thought you
No.
did. Okay, so Linda's taken the class several times, and you do agree that it takes practice, right?
Yes.
But you get good at it, right? The more you make, the better you get used to the clay. And okay, so notice that it's smushy and mushy. It's such a mess. I don't worry about that. I don't work cleanly. Mine is stuck to the bowl really good because I didn't grease this part and the plastic's not there. Okay, so normally if I let it sit, it should I'm just gonna pop it out. All right, I'm pretty rough with my clay at this stage because I know it's soft enough. I can manipulate it still. Okay, so this is a little bit too soft to work with right now, but notice that I have wrinkles on the thing, okay? And this is where this flexible kidney comes in really good. You kind of want to wet it on the edge, and then you push and pull, and it smooths out some of the but you got to push and pull. You can't just pet it on the surface. You want to smush it. Okay, so I'm losing my shape, and that's okay. If I wanted my piece to stay that nice bowl shape, I would have left it in there a little bit longer and let it dry. But maybe I just want maybe an oval shape this time. Okay, so, okay. All right, let me see if I can get this. Okay. So see how it's too wet, and the weight of the clay is gonna just make it flop. So I want to, so I really need it to, but I'm gonna shape this into a different shape. And I can still manipulate this. And if I wanted to squeeze it in, what I do is I do a little bit at a time, go a lot of pressure, okay? If I do it too quickly, I'll get a fold. So I'll do a little bit, and I'll squish it. Right now the clay's wet, I can really squish it and support. And then, so if you're rough with your clay like me, you'll learn all kinds of cool things. When it's wet like this, I can do a lot of things to it.
And would you put it in something to let it dry so it'll keep the shape?
Yeah, when you put it in something, you really want it to dry for at least an hour. You'll be able to tell when you take it out. You'll go, oh, it's too wobbly. If it's too wobbly, sometimes I'll put it back in. Okay, so I can shape it like this. And so my bottom has flattened out because the clay's too wet, but right now it's still mushy, squishy, so I can still manipulate it. And I'm kind of thinning the walls right now by squeezing it. Basically, I'm making a big pinch pot. Okay, so the bottom's too flat, so let's see if I can get this to, if you do it a little bit at a time, you can actually shape it. Ooh, maybe I'll make an oval shape and pat it gently into shape. So see how you can just make some really cool shape. I am going to switch over to all right, these guys. You don't have to buy this guy, but you know those little turn lazy Susans or whatever you call them. Yeah, if you have one laying around that you're not using, those are kind of cool to have. Always put a barrier, like a paper towel, between the clay and whatever you put it on, because otherwise it will stick. All right.
But it won't stick to the paper?
If it does, you know, the paper burns out.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so here I am now with the turning thing. You know, it's really cool because you can just, you know, really manipulate it and
Mhm.
it's faster. So I'm kind of making it an oval shape right now. Okay, I do know that it's still thick. Okay, I'm gonna have to put the feet, I guess, here and then 4 feet. Okay, so maybe I'll make it an oval shape. Yeah, if I make it an oval shape, I can put 2 avocados in here. Okay, now at this point, I really need to let it dry, but let's see, what time is it? We can take a quick break. And as it slowly dries, you can kind of like, at this point, I can't be smushing and mushing anymore. I'm gonna start being a little bit more gentle. You know, I'm not pushing too hard. If I push too hard and dented it, I have to flip it back out and push it back out. So at this point, I'm kind of like trying to refine the shape. And then we'll take a short break and I'll show you how to put feet on it, okay? So it's upside down right now, so sometimes you can't tell what something looks like. So because most of us have smartphones now, you can take a picture and on your phone, reverse it so you can see what it would look like upright. You know, sometimes I'll try to look upside down. Okay, so I've got a hairy mess right here. I need to fix that. I'm gonna take something that's stiff. I'm pushing and pulling, pushing and pulling. The paper does get in the way. Now, don't just do the surface, okay? I mean, push as much as you can without distorting it too much. Yeah, you don't want any of those cracks because they'll split open on. Now, if you wanted a perfect shape, you can cut out a paper pattern or draw it on paper and then put this on the paper and follow the lines, okay? All right, so kind of looking like a boat shape, huh? Now, if you want, we can make a casserole dish or we can make a tripod mug. That might be fun. And then that way you'll learn how to work with slabs and joining bottoms. All right. So see how this flexible thing is great. I can flex it and get a good curve. Okay. Okay, so this piece is probably very, very thick, but what I'll do is I'll carve it out. But right now I need to just fine tune the shape. I can actually turn this into an animal, right? I can, right now it's upside down, but I can give it a head here, add stuff to it. Okay. All right, let's take a short 5-ish minute break and maybe it'll dry a little bit and I can show you how to put feet on it. And
Helen,
because,
how long is the class to?
what? Oh,
How long?
it's 2 hours. So what's that?
Oh, okay, okay.
So we don't have to rush. Yeah, I teach online Chastain classes, and sometimes we have to rush. I have to do that trick, you know,
There's a
when
little hole in the front of it.
there is.
Yeah, keep turning it right there where you finger it, where you just put your finger.
Okay, it's a good idea to look at it, huh?
Yeah, now you have it.
Yeah, the turntable is good. Um, so this is probably not going to be my final surface. I tend to like to carve things, so maybe this is going to. Now, if you don't want to get finger marks, you can go to your kitchen and you can use a paddle, and you got to do this a little at a time. Okay, you just don't hack it real hard, and you can shape it. And that's why these turntables are really great. Yeah, I might want this to come out more. You can gently tap to even out the surface. When I flip this over, you're going to see it's a real mess on the other side. But so with clay, you know, you just have to keep working on it, keep working on it. Things don't get done instantaneously unless you're a production potter. Yeah. Okay. So we'll come back in 5 minutes. How's that? Okay.
Okay.
Let that dry.
It did on the schedule, it didn't say that the class was 2 hours. I mean, it's not a problem because I'm interested, but
Um, oh, what does it say on the schedule?
it just says the class starts at 9 a.m.
It doesn't have an ending time.
You know,
It goes on forever till midnight. Okay, I get obsessed with fine tuning the shape. It's just one of those things I like to do. And I can probably keep pounding on this forever. But I need to take a quick break. Okay, now this is kind of giving me an idea like, I don't know, it kind of looks like a bean pod or some sort of plant pod. Okay, that might be interesting. Okay, now I'm gonna rinse off my hands here. Okay, we'll come back in 5 minutes. Is that okay with you guys?
that'll be fine.
All right, and I'll put feet on it. Okay.
While you're doing that, talk to me about those air bubbles again, because that was my home phone ringing in the background and it rang right over what you were saying.
Air bubbles, usually air bubbles are okay unless you're going to carve into your piece, because then you hit an air bubble and it's going to make a big hole.
Yeah.
So if you know you're going to do a lot of carving, don't make air bubbles, okay?
Okay.
And what you can do is you can take your needle tool. A lot of times if you're rolling out a slab and poke it and try to get rid of it.
Mhm.
I never have that. Is that your doggy?
Whoops, sorry. I'll mute.
And now, as if you have a big air bubble and as your clay dries, if you know you have an air bubble and you can't get rid of it or you didn't see it until it was too late, you can always make a little tiny pinhole and let that air escape. It's kind of like making a pinch pot, a round pinch pot, and we have to make that little hole to let the air escape. In the kiln, it's not going to blow up your piece because if you absolutely let it dry slowly, in the kiln, at 180 degrees, and I let it fire at 180 degrees for 8 hours to get all the moisture completely out of all the pieces, it should be no problem. It's when the clay is wet, okay, or there's moisture in there somewhere. I mean, even the slightest amount of moisture, and I rev up the kiln too fast, that's when it blows up, because then it creates, the water turns into steam and just expands. When I first started at Benson, things were blowing up big time. At least Charles told me things are blowing up big time. That's because he would turn all the switches on low and just start it up. You can't do that. You have to put one switch on low, and then you let that sit, with the peepholes open so that any kind of moisture is escaping. And then slowly turn up the switches. So he just didn't know how to fire the kiln, unfortunately. So people's pieces were blowing up, but you don't have to worry about that anymore. I think that's about it. Does that answer your
Okay.
question, Linda?
Yeah, thank you.
So I think when I was firing the kiln, I don't think anybody's pieces blew up, right?
I don't remember anything blowing up, no.
Mhm. And so the key is to, when you hand build, things have to dry slowly. You can't just expose it to the air because you have thick and thin areas. That's why our pieces always took so long to get fired. And it has to be fired. The temperature has to be taken up step by step, very slowly in the kiln. That's just standard procedure. Okay, is Lady Bushell back yet? Let's see, her mic is muted.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. I'm going to show you how to wedge clay. Let's say you were reconstituting clay, so some of it was mushy and some of it was a bit dry. Kind of like kneading dough. What you're doing is, let me see if I can, how am I going to do this? Let me see if I can do this backwards. You're not folding over like that, okay? Because then you trap air bubbles. You're kind of sliding it and keep doing this and doing this and turn it around and keep doing this. Now, there is another method to do, and I did build a thing at Benson to do this, but I built this thing. You got like a slab, and then I have a wire at 45-degree angle. I had a bracket here as being, real taut. If you don't have that, maybe you can do it this way. You slice the clay, and then you take it, and then you slam it, okay? And you just do that over and over, and it's kind of pain in the butt to do it without that thing, but it is doable. But you keep doing that, and it just really mixes up the clay real good. You still have to wedge it though. I think it's kind of like kneading dough. When you knead dough, you don't trap air, right? I'm not too sure. So I'm gonna wedge it.
I don't know.
I feel feel like I'm cooking when I work in clay, but it's obviously not. Anyway, let me show you another way to do it on the bowl. Where's my rolling pin? All right, so I'm gonna take my clay and I'm just gonna do a quick show. All right, when you roll clay, you wanna go from the center out, and you wanna keep flipping it. Okay, now, if you wanted it the same thickness, you can find something. I just happen to have extra dowel rods, and these are probably like 3/8 of an inch thick. And I put it on each side like this. So when I roll the clay, you just want to keep flipping this over, okay? The roller is hitting the wooden dowels, and that keeps it from going any less than the thickness of the dowel. Everything's kind of basically common sense, you know. I mean, don't get too freaked out. This is basically mud. I mean, people are using mud, clay they found in the ground, and smushing and mushing it and just making all kinds of stuff with it for centuries. So, okay, so I kind of rolled it out. And you really don't need all kinds of tools and gadgets. One of the things you really need to do is go online like Pinterest and look at all the different things that people have made, okay? And you'll get, well, first of all, you'll get overwhelmed, but a lot of it's inspiring, especially the old stuff is fun to look at. Okay, so I got it pretty thin here. Now, on this, I really need to grease it. And you don't want a bowl with a foot on it technically, because then you just have to clean that up. But if you're very careful and gentle, okay, let's just say I greased it, okay, I didn't, so this is probably gonna stick. And obviously this wasn't big enough, but this is for demo purposes, okay? And then if you have you don't need a whole lot of space to work in. I'm working on a space that's probably 3 feet by 30 inches. And then I have a Rubbermaid bin with stuff in it and all my tools are piled up here. Okay, you can put it on one of these things and gently kind of turn it so you kind of get an idea. Or you can take a bowl and then cut it, okay? So this is one way to do it. Now, you do have to put grease on it and you do have to pay attention to, you can't just, ignore it and leave it for like a day. You gotta keep coming back to it in an hour or something, see how it's doing.
Are you just talking about plain cooking oil when you grease, or is there something else?
Yeah, just oil, it burns up. Okay, so, if it's on oil and it was stick, I could pop it up. The thing you have to watch out for on bowls is this one's got a nice curve. Okay, see it? Some bowls will come curvy and then it'll go straight down. What happens is when the clay shrinks, as the clay slowly dries, even though it's still wet, it's slowly moving. It's gonna grab onto that vertical spot and it'll crack, okay? So if you have one of those vertical bowls, you're gonna have to kind of pay attention and take it off at a certain point. This guy should move like this. Sometimes it might grab, but I still pay attention to it. Okay, does that make sense? Everybody okay on that?
Yes.
You can't just throw it on a form and think it's okay. Now, if you go online, I don't know, if you go to Devon, I don't know if they have it online, but they'll have like these, I think they're made out of reconstituted wood or something, but they'll have all these plate forms and oval forms, and you'll notice that the edges, the sides will be slanted, okay? You don't need to get those things, just raid your kitchen. Oh, you know what I'm gonna do for you, Lady Boucher? I'm gonna go get a fork, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to show you how I can use a fork and a knife and a spoon to without tools. All right, so now feet. I need to put 4 feet on my thing. And you really need to do this so that you know you learn how to attach them. All right. Let's see. Okay. One of the ways you can do it is to roll out like a fat worm and then divide it into 4. So that way you kind of know you have even amounts, sort of. I never do that. All my feet are probably, each one looks different. Okay, so I got a very fat worm or something here. Let's see if this will work. All right, 1, 2, 3, sort of like that. Okay, I'm just gonna, it doesn't cut, knives don't cut very well. Ugh. Okay, maybe if I wet it. Yeah, it cuts a little bit better if you wet it each time. Okay, that's good enough. Now, the key is to have fun, don't get stressed out. I shape this into a cone. I just do. You don't have to do a cone. You can make a round foot, square foot, any kind of foot you want. You don't want it to be like, I don't know why I have a hole in the middle, but I do. Anyway, that's a first. You kind of want a conical shape, all right? So I am going to cut this about this much, and it's a little bit too pointy, so I'll just cut that. So I'm going to make 4 of these that look sort of like that. Okay. And they don't have to, you can make perfect feet, carve it, decorate it and everything, finish it, and then put it on if you want. But I also do it the smush and mush method where I just kind of like do general shapes and then I work on finishing it. Okay, so these aren't perfect. They don't have to be. I'm gonna cut the tips off. You don't want like super tiny tips. Anything sharp edge, like if you made a bowl and you made the rim really sharp, and that's most likely going to chip off eventually. All right. So you don't want to make it sharp edges. You want to make it kind of blunt. All right. So I'm going to kind of see if I can make this almost the same size, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'll put this back in. Okay. And fingernails make marks on your clay. All right, so I'm kind of eyeballing right now where I'm going to put these guys. Oh, it's stuck to the fork. Sorry. Here we go. Now, you don't want it to do this, or you don't want to put it here because this is going to topple over. You kind of want to angle it out. And obviously I have to have 4 of them. So maybe like this, okay? And these are too long. I think they don't need to be this. I'm gonna cut them in half, right? And you can change your mind as you work. Let's see what that's gonna look like. Oh, that's much better, isn't it? Yeah, I can even make them round, whatever. Okay, so let me see. At this point, I'm going to be a little bit more careful and see if I can even them out a little bit, make them sort of look alike. Now, the reason why you want it to be more of a conical shape is because if you have something like this, okay, it's probably not going to be strong enough structurally, tend to break off easily. And also visually, it just looks like it's stuck on. If that's what you want, you can do that. But in ceramics, we kind of want to give it a gradual flow. All right, now I accidentally dented this. Let's see if I can fix it. Still too wet and too soft. Oh, that part's really thin, so that's why it dented. All right. Okay, normally you will want this to be drier because you'll find out, well, that was too soft to work with. Okay. So, and you can make whatever kind of feet you want. Maybe I'll make it fancy, all right? Let's see. I can take my texture plate. I made a texture plate. And you can make this out of your clay. Okay, and I just carved into it, and then I had it the first firing only. You don't glaze it or anything. Because with the texture plate, I can gently roll it. Let's see. So I got like a texture here. You see that? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and that one made that texture. They're all not going to be, you know, alike. All right, that one's pretty cool. If I don't like it, I could smush it up and redo it. And here's another one. Okay.
Is it on both sides or just one side?
On the side that's not going to be seen.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if I was careful, if I have two of these texture plates, I can get it on both sides evenly.
Oh, yes, I understand.
I don't know where that one went. I had,
That's very smart. I like that.
yeah, it's fun. And
That in your little stamps. That's very ingenious.
yeah, well, if I have time, I'll cover the stamp. Well, we might not have time. We may have to move to carving and piercing next week because this is so wet, you know. I can't, I would make a mess, all right? But I think this part's important because before you carve, you want to make sure your feet are on. All right, so at this point, I have to handle it gently unless I want to let it stiffen up a little bit, but because we're doing quick demos. Okay, so my fork, I'm gonna take, now, some people will use slip. I don't if I don't have to, but you will really go deep. All right, see, I made that squishy, mushy mess right there. Okay, I'm gonna go real deep. Now, I do know that I have a thin spot here. And I might punch through. If I punch through, I'll just fix it on the other side. And so far, so good. Okay, so you wanna add some water to that. You don't wanna make it sopping wet like that because it'll soften up the clay. And you want to do the same to here, but first I kind of wet it here, okay? And then I will really mush it. All right, here's the trick. You stick it on here. Let's see which way. Okay. Now you wiggle. I don't think you can see that. Okay, you wiggle, 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 wiggle. Let me turn this off. Show. You wiggle, wiggle. Oops. Okay. You wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Okay, I'm probably gonna lose my texture because it's just, that's why you want to wait until it's a little bit. Okay, you want to wiggle, 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 wiggle. And what it's doing is it's taking the two surfaces and making mud actually, or what we call slip. And you keep wiggling until you can't move it all. Now, let's say you don't know if you've got it on there good enough, pull on it. Okay, if it comes off, well, it wasn't good, it's going to come off later anyway. So you scratch up and start all over. Wiggle, 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 and it's on there pretty okay. All right. Okay, I don't know how much of the texture I lost. Oh, okay, that's not bad. All right, now I'm going to do this one. And this leg is probably too short, but that's okay. We'll fix it later. And I'm going to scratch the heck out of it. I wet it a little bit, okay? And I'm going to do that wiggle, wiggle, wiggle thing again, all right? Yeah, you have to say that mantra, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Okay. Otherwise it doesn't work. And, right now, I don't think it's on there good enough because I can probably pull it off, see? So, and sometimes I'll make 5 or 6 feet because if I squished one and messed it up, well, I've got 2 more already done. Okay, I'll wiggle, wiggle, wiggle until you can feel it grab and it won't move anymore. Okay. Yeah, okay. And then with that, scratch it up real good. I don't need these feet to be too tall and teeter-tottering. So I might have to cut it off. I'm probably gonna, well, I normally do cut it off and shorten it. So there's 2 ways you can do this. You can completely finish your feet and then carefully put it on, or you can do it my method where you have to fine tune it later. Okay, so he's kind of on the short side. Another one. So it's really cool to make your own clay things, functional pieces and use them. I don't think I had this centered. Oh, well. Anyway, it's just fun to use your handmade pieces. They may not be perfect, but you'll get better. Okay, once you have this on, I'm going to use a knife because normally I would use my little pretend finger, or you can use a popsicle stick. You're going to very carefully, gently. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. So you're kind of pushing down some of that clay into the base of the bowl. And you want to do it all around, okay? Now you don't want to go at it at top speed like I'm doing. I'm just doing this so I can get this done for you guys. All right. After you do that, you have to put a little slimy wet worm around. You want to make sure those joints are really good. So I'm going to make a skinny little baby worm. Okay. You want to put it around the base like that. Okay, after you do that, I'm going to take a spoon, and the reason why is, I guess, because it's curved, and very carefully. Sometimes I might have to use this. Oh, this is a good one. Here we go. I'll use this, and I'm going to try to. And if I mess up the design, I can carve into it and fix it a little bit, the texture of the foot. Okay. What you want is a gradual, smooth transition here. You don't want it to look like it's stuck on there, okay? And sometimes I'll take a pencil and spin it. And that kind of acts as a tiny finger. You may have to support it a little bit. So instead of doing the smoothing action, I'll do the spinning action that kind of pushes the clay and smooths it out. You don't want to work with too much. You don't want to wet your pieces as you work on it too much, because then they just slip and slide around. You want just enough water. Don't, I see people making like slurry on their pieces. Don't do that, because that just weakens your piece while you're working on it.
You know, Helen, this demo is actually a lot easier to see you than in class because there's always people surrounding you.
Yeah, you're right. You can see a close-up. It's like watching Cirque du Soleil on TV. It's better than going to the place and paying and using a porta potty and end up with, you know, a seat where you only see 1/4 of the show or something, you know? Right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's more comfortable. You don't have to sit next to somebody wearing too much perfume. Yeah. And then if it's too wet, just wait a little bit longer until it dries up, and then you might be able to take your finger to smooth it out, okay? Now, at this point, I have no idea what it's going to look like upside down, and hope it works. And if your piece didn't turn out and it didn't work, you know what? Second time around, it goes faster, and the whole idea is to learn. So basically, we're also doing engineering, aren't we? Now, because they're functional pieces, they have to work. If you're doing a sculpture, we don't care. So it's okay, Linda.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So I'm just smoothing it out right now, and it's still wet, okay? So what happens is, as it dries, you know, right now it's messy still. As it dries, what you do is you take out your you squeeze the heck out of this sponge, all right? When it's little bit drier, you got to be real gentle, okay? But this acts as your sandpaper. It just takes time, but you can really smooth out stuff with this. Right now, my piece is a little bit wet. And then, you know, you'll find out, okay, that's not perfect. And then let it dry a little bit more, come back and do a little bit more, let it dry a little bit more. The texture where I lost it because I had to add that snake or whatever I did, I can go back and normally I have a carving tool. I like this guy a lot. You can buy this at, because I like the big loop, and I like the, let me see if I can show it to you, the fine tip, okay? It's only 6 inches, not the big one. This is the very small one, because I can get into like the groove, okay? And I can actually bring this line and continue on with, you know, following through with the line and incorporating that into the side of this bowl. Okay, so I'll work on this some more. Now, we don't know if this is going to teeter-totter or what. Don't worry, when it's dry and hard enough, I can flip it over and I can either whack off the foot, I can sand it down with this, adjust it. I also have, okay, I took a piece of wood and I stretched canvas on it. And you don't have to do this, but I'm just saying this makes it convenient. Okay, and I stapled it down it. I wet the canvas and I really stretched it. What I can do is put lots of water on here. And let me see if I can demonstrate. So I can put lots of water on here. And then I can run this like this very gently. If you have something spindly like this, feet like this, you're gonna have to be really careful. And you can smooth it out. So basically it's doing this guy's job, but all 3 feet at one time, okay? I think I'm gonna lose my voice today if I keep going on until 3 o'clock. Okay. So I am at the point where I'm going to keep smoothing this out and let it stiffen up. And when it's stiff enough that it's not going to distort, I'm going to flip it over, clean it some more. And then next week, I'll show you how to pierce it. All right. Right now, I'm going to show you, I think you want to make some stamps or texture plates. I think those are lots of fun to make. So I'll show you, I'm going to make it on the large side, large scale so you can see better, all right? So don't make it this big unless you want to. So you just take your scrap clay and I'm gonna, let's see, let me turn this on. I see it better. Okay, kind of want to pound it, okay? And then I'm going to, let's say, all right, I'll make another leaf again. This is going to be the outside of my leaf. Okay. Now, when this piece is a little bit more dry, I'm going to take away the outside. Right now it's wet, so it sticks back to itself. And I'm really going to take away. This is where these loop tools, really carving tools, come in handy. Okay, I need to get rid of that guy. So excuse me. Okay, if it was a little bit drier, it's easier to work with. Okay. You want this surface to be flat. Now you got to think in reverse. So I'm going to carve this out, and you want to carve it pretty deep, like I have no idea what the measurement of that is, right? And then I'm going to carve this. And because right now the clay is wet, it makes all these burrs and it's a mess. So you really want to work with it when it's a little bit more dry. Okay. So right now it's a mess. I'm going to let this stiffen up and dry. And then what you can do is let it clean it up. Okay. And then let it dry. You don't have to go all the way bone dry. You just want it pretty dry. And you can test it. Okay. Right now it's too wet, so I can't. Push it into some wet clay and see how it prints. And it looks like some places need to be deeper. Go back and carve it. Even if it's dry, you can carve it, okay?
So when you say, Helen, when you say dry, or you mean bone dry or not as damp as it is now?
Little bit before bone dry, okay? You can do it bone dry, just that you can get some really nice carving when it's bone dry. You just have to be careful that it doesn't break on you, crack. That bone dry is very, very fragile, okay? So you just want this surface to be flat. You don't want anything outside of it because it'll make an imprint, you know? And so I'm just doing this on a large scale. And you don't want it so thick that it's going to blow up in the kiln, okay? You know, you don't want the whole thing so thick. And then I always put, you know, I just carve out a hole here. I'm just too lazy to pick up a tool, I guess. Okay, so I'm just doing this on a gigantic scale. But it makes some really cool stuff. And I would highly recommend you go online and look at all this stamps that other people have made. Okay, but it's going to be in the reverse. Like I said, I made a bunch of leaf stamps, and you want
What do you
to,
mean, but what do you mean by reverse?
okay, I'll show you. So I have it carved out like this, right?
Yes.
The lines are carved into it, all right? So if I stamp with it, the carved lines are gonna stick up. Let's see if I can find one. Okay, so it's probably hard to tell. Okay, so it's the reverse of this, meaning wherever,
Okay, yes, I see.
yeah. So
Oh.
I have, let's see, I have one like this. I don't think some of these are successful. You make a bunch because okay, so this one, see? And then let's see, I have another one like that. So it goes like that. So wherever it's carved in, the clay goes in there.
Okay, so you showed the piece that you created and you used those beautiful leaves on the handles.
Yeah.
How else would you be able to use those stamps? Is that something you can put along the perimeter of the piece, or does it,
Yeah, you can do it anywhere you want. Like there's different ways to do stuff. Okay, when I did this, I had to like support it on the bottom
Mhm.
and then stamp it. Or you could roll out a slab, like let's say you're going to do a platter, measure it correctly and everything. You can, if you want, stamp it around it and then put it in your form. You can also put the slab into your form. Let's say you had a platter. And then because it's still on the platter, you can stamp into it. What you have to keep in mind is that wherever you stamp, when you push in, it's going to squish the clay out. So it's going to dissolve. Okay. I'll show you a cup I did. Okay. These were thrown on the wheel, but let's see this one. Okay, so I put the stamps there, and I did support it on the inside. It was still wet, but it does make it bumpy on the inside. I mean, I could smooth it out later, but I didn't care. And then here's another one. This one's a little bit more subtle. I didn't carve it deep enough. The lines of the ginkgo
Yes.
leaf. Yeah, so it's real subtle, but the leaves came out pretty good. Yeah.
Very nice.
It does take practice on the stamps. You kind of have to make a gazillion of them and then pick out the ones that work the best for you.
Okay, very nice.
All right. So do y'all have any questions right now? Are you able to, you think you'll be able to do the berry bowl, at least the bowl and the feet? Yeah. I heard yes, right?
Yes, definitely.
And then next week, we'll talk about the piercing. And if you want, we'll talk about attaching handles and I'll show you how to make a tripod mug. It's much easier than or better than a regular cylindrical mug. Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you so much, Helen. I appreciate this.
And next week, and Lady Michelle, if that clay bag is too heavy, and if you have a wire cutter, you open the bag in your car and you slice out half of it, so it's half the weight.
Well, I'm gonna have to go and purchase some things like the wire cutter because I don't have anything. I don't have any tools. I need to get a mat. So it's going, hopefully by next week I'll have all those items.
Yeah. And they do sometimes sell a set and it has a wire cutter in it and I think it has a needle tool in it. It's about, I want to say it's about $20. There's like a sponge and stuff like that and then your basic stuff. But yeah, if you're going to do any carving, this guy is good. And also this guy is good. Yeah. If you can get
And
a
so
little-
it would be the same tools that are needed in the other class that you're going to teach. Is that correct?
yeah, basically. Mhm.
Yeah.
Are you
Okay.
taking another class?
I hope to look at the other class. Yes.
Yay, that'd be great. Yeah, you have fun. You have fun because you'll be making stuff. Yeah, Linda, it's fun, right? That's why you keep continuing.
Yes, it is. It's really therapeutic. It just makes you relax, I think. And this is good, Helen, because after not doing clay for over a year, it's like my memory is bad. And so this gets me back into it.
Well, at least you don't put your eggs in a.
Mhm.
But I've done things close.
I'm not going to tell you what I found in the refrigerator the other week. Terrible. Okay, guys, I'll see you next week, same time.
Okay, thank you very
Bye.
much. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I